All right, what's up, YouTube? It's your boy Big Mike, the therapist man with Therapist Talks. I'm back in the building today with another YouTube video, hanging out here in these YouTube streets with you. Once again, your boy is a mental health therapist working in a private practice, currently, constantly, always working out of that handy dandy DSM-5, working with folks, helping them get through obstacles and challenges and overcoming negative symptoms that impact their lives. Today we're talking about, can trauma be inherited? This is a journal from the National Library of Medicine, the Psychiatric Journal, of 2022, June 179, volume 6, page 434 through 440. It's talking about, can trauma be inherited? Now, this is specifically talking about my beautiful, wonderful chocolate, brown, light-skinned, and vanilla and black folks. Inherited trauma is a growing theory that explains how negative experiences of past generations can trickle down and influence the present generation through DNA. Now, when we start talking about the DNA aspects of trauma, we have to go into epigenetics. There's many epigenetic studies about these things. There's a thing called methylation, where these genes can be activated or deactivated by the individual willing to do the work. These genes are passed down. Slavery was passed down. A lot of people, you hear them always say, well, you weren't even alive when slavery was happening, or I wasn't there when my ancestors did this or did that. And I'm sorry, this video may be triggering to some African Americans, to my black people, as well as to people of a European descent. And so, but what I want to talk about is it does have an impact on the population of African Americans or black people who were not there during slavery. There's an epigenetics, talking about epigenetics, there's epigenetic studies how specific structures of DNA found in offspring can be altered by trauma experiences by the parents, or even the experiences of ancestors from centuries ago. There's also growing scientific evidence that generational trauma can have a profound impact on the lives of folks of color, the community, after experiencing centuries of unaddressed trauma. So we talk about centuries, we talk about hundreds of years. We'll talk about unaddressed trauma. According to the ethics and guidelines of psychology, mental health, and everything like that, you might have heard of the Stanford experiment. You might have heard of the Tuskegee experiment. These things are frowned upon along the psychological or psychiatric community by the backs of scholars around the globe, of all nations, of all colors, of all creeds, of all races, that it's unethical to send someone through an experiment and not debrief them afterwards, right? They have to process what they went through, right? Sort of like process therapy, right? They have to process what they went through. Well, when you got a whole population, of race of people that have experienced trauma forced on them by a system, physical, violent, unadulterated trauma, of course they're going to have psychological dysfunctions. Now, am I saying my people are psychologically dysfunctional? Yeah, we are as a people. And the system did this. But there's no psychological debriefing that happens after you do an experiment on people. They don't have the tools necessary or been equipped with the tools to be able to combat the symptoms, the triggers, the thoughts, the emotions, or behaviors that they're actually experiencing. And this is backed by, the scholars around the globe, the hats of scholars who've studied psychiatric mental health challenges, mental health illnesses, persistent and serious mental illness. You can't do that to people. So you wonder why our people's running around with, their pants hanging down and just kind of thumbing their nose at the system, right? They don't care. They're in a state of not caring, because that's what you get when you've been psychologically traumatized and it's been passed down through our generations. So the fear, the trauma, the inferiority complex is there. And that those traumas, those mental and emotional traumas, are draining and they're hard to deal with. So you get into what we call, excuse my language, in psychology and substance use, we call it a case of the fuckets. What you see is a people who have a case of the fuckets and they just don't care. They're going to run through life however they feel like running through it. You did it to us, so we're going to do it to ourselves too, right? So you kind of turn on yourself, right? So this is what's happening. And epigenetics explains that these genes are in the DNA, and the response to it is a trauma response. It says this means that the black population in America is essentially living with chronic post-traumatic stress disorder. Decades of oppression, starting with slavery, leading to more decades of discrimination and social injustices, many of which persist today, result in feelings of fear and mistrust. We are not only battling the inequality that we as a society face today, but the inequalities that our ancestors faced years ago. The growing mental illness bias in the Black community. We know that mental health affects the Black community in unique ways, often making it challenging for individuals to discuss these issues that they're facing and seek the treatment that they need. A recent study, this ain't just my opinion, a recent study found that 63% of Black people viewed a perceived mental health condition as a sign of personal weakness. The cultural stigma around mental health results in people bottling up their emotions and refusing to speak freely, even to friends and family, fearful of how they'll be perceived. The National Alliance, NAMI, National Alliance on Mental Illness, also conducted a survey to determine their level of comfort when it comes to discussing mental health related issues, which revealed another troubling disparity. While 67% of people identified as white reported feeling open to discussing their mental health issues with close friends and families, and only 12.5% of those who identified as Black felt the same way. The disparity could be explained by the numerous factors such as racial wealth gap, health provider bias, inequality of care, and the list goes on. I just was talking about this. The Tuskegee experiments are perhaps the most well-known case of medical malpractice that caused large-scale pain, suffering, and death to the Black community, where 600 African-American men were enlisted to take part in a scientific study around untreated syphilis, but were unaware that they were not receiving treatment at all. This is a quintessential example of how so many members of the Black community continue to distrust the medical industry of today. So if that was just one controlled group of 600, what about the millions of control groups of people of color that came over here? You know, we believe we're Hebrews, people of color that came over here on the slave ships sold by Africans to whites and experienced tremendous trauma, way more than the Tuskegee experiment could ever do to people. Without a doubt, the Black community has historically been victim to and continues to be victim to prejudices, discriminations by the U.S. healthcare system, and no doubt a contributing factor that results in so few Black people seeking a mental health treatment, though they so desperately need. The most recent data gathered in 2019 shows that only 1 in 3 members of the Black community actually receive the care that they need. At the same time, there may also be a financial barrier to seek professional treatment. According to the Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Agency, SAMHSA, a branch of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, service costs or lack of insurance gap coverage was the most frequently cited reason for not using mental health services across all racial and ethnic groups. In 2020, over 10% of Black adults in the United States were living without health insurance. And this just, goes to show that, Blacks or African Americans, we need mental health services. Why don't we go? Racial trauma, slavery, you name it. We've been through a split by horses. One horse tied one leg, another horse tied another leg, and the slave master beat the horses ran, split the man apart, come back, burn them, set them on fire, feed the babies, the alligators. This is research. This ain't just stories people tell because, we want to blame the system or the man for doing these things to us. These things are real. These things are passed down the same way white folks pass down, generational wealth. Our generational wealth is passed down to African Americans to stay safe. That's our wealth, is to stay safe. Try not to get killed by the police. Try not to get killed or being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Run, try to get away from the police because they're going to kill you. Like, I mean, you know, so the trauma, the emotional, mental trauma that individuals face, excuse me, are in a higher rate towards those of other communities. So just realizing that blacks, my people now, specifically speaking to my people, we definitely need mental health. As a black mental health therapist, light-skinned, African American, black Hebrew mental health therapist, we do realize that, you know, we do need mental health treatment and therapy for people that look like us, right? People that talk like us, people that understand us, people that get it, people that connect with the history, people that connect with the traumas that have been passed down. The post-traumatic hood disorder, post-traumatic slave syndrome, like all these things that are specific to us as a people can identify with. So with that, I just want to educate the community, to anybody, any race watching, to kind of give you the insight, I guess I would say, lens of what African Americans experience from a state designated clinical supervisor, mental health therapist, mental health professional who's opened many treatment departments, outpatient, inpatient, substance abuse co-occurring inpatient treatment facilities, 32 beds, overseeing 12 to 15 counselors and psych doctors, and so I got the experience. I know what I'm talking about. And so I'm not just some dude talking, making a video. We talking about black people and mental health. Black people don't go to therapy because of these reasons that we're talking about. So black people, therapy is an investment. And I'd like you to please invest into yourself. Invest into yourself, invest into your history, by not passing down the traumas to our next future generations, because we're traumatizing them over and over and over, man, emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually. So I'd encourage my people to please come to treatment, please seek a therapist, please come, talk about some of these issues, and try to work on healing, man. And with that, I'm gonna say thank you for stopping by, man. Big Mike, the therapist, at Therapist Talks. This is volume 7. This is number 7 right here. I think I got about 15, 20 videos or something on this channel. I'm just kind of trying to get this channel going. Please make sure you like, comment, subscribe. This video really was to educate whites and other people into the insight lens or kaleidoscope of what black people face. But this video really was for my black people. Please come get some treatment, man. Please come get some treatment. And with that, I'm going to say, y'all have a good one. I appreciate y'all. Talk to you later. Peace.